Have you ever felt that she just doesn't see how much you care? All of the things you've done for her and would do in a heartbeat just to make her happy. Then you sit there in pain, confusion, and frustration, wondering why she is slipping away. You thought you did everything right. Did she mean the things she said? Does she still love you? Did she ever really care? What if I told you that the solution to all of this, it's not what you think? You know, most therapists, YouTube coaches, and authors will tell you to focus on the problems that cause the pain and separation. That would make things better, right? Just find a way to speak to her, to get her to open up and share how you feel. Then she'll truly know how much you care. Well, as you'll learn today, what she needs from you is not PSC or problem-solving care. She needs something that seems counterintuitive to getting her back. But stick with me as it'll make sense as I tell you. By the end of the video, you'll learn 5 ways to make her obsessed with you. How you'll be the only man she fantasizes about because of the psychological leverage you hold in her mind using the Kaizen Method. The Kaizen Method originated from Japan, and it is a philosophy and approach focused on continuous improvement. Now, the word Kaizen itself translates to change for better or continuous improvement in Japanese. It emphasizes making small incremental changes over time to improve efficiency, quality, and productivity in all aspects of life, including work and personal development. Now, there are 5 key principles of the Kaizen Method that I will apply to getting her back, okay? Look, she left you for very specific reasons. I know you have provided so much for her and would give your life for her, but everything you've given her is in alignment with what you think she wanted, not what she actually wanted. No one taught you what women truly need in a happy long-term relationship. Even she doesn't verbalize it correctly. Now, this is a bitter pill that wakes you up kind of like to the Matrix. The default blueprint to make a woman happy is that 100K job, 2 kids, 3 vacations per year, and 1 happy life. But even she couldn't tell you what you did wrong. Now, this is where, lucky for you, my 10 years of experience comes in. Because at the end of the day, when what you did wrong, she will tell you a symptom cause and not the core root cause. Because no one really taught her that, right? She just feels these emotions and she has to rationalize why she feels a certain way toward you. Okay. Now, some women do have an amazing awareness. Let's say your wife she's a therapist, which actually a lot of wives in our program are. But regardless, she's a therapist, she's really well read, which some women are. But some women, they just feel the emotions, and then the guy's like, well, I need to give me a rational reason for why this is so I can fix it, so I don't have to do it anymore. But really, it's a character defect in yourself. So she'll tell you the individual thing you did wrong, which is like, oh, you didn't take out the garbage, you didn't do the dishes, or you didn't take the kids here. And she'll call attention to all these individual things. And you're like, okay, I will fix the thing, and then it'll no longer happen. When in reality, what she was upset at was a character trait in yourself that didn't allow her to feel safe. All right, the second principle of Kaizen is standardization. Now, once you identify with the first process that you need to improve, now we're gonna build in the systems or habits to create the standardization process of you going towards that improvement in an effortless way. Now, one of my favorite quotes of all time is, it's not what you get by achieving your goals, but who you become in the process, right? So by setting these goals of working out every single day, yes, the tangible outcome you're gonna be getting is a healthier body, but also internally, you are developing discipline in yourself. You see, ever since I started running a business, which I didn't think I ever would, like I was the last person you ever thought about running a business, I had to learn a trait of attention to detail, okay? Now, because like one little mistake I can make could potentially not hurt thousands of clients or not allow hundreds of clients to, actually, I'll give you an example. You want a recent example? So I developed this web page, right? And on the web page, on ClickFunnels, one of our employees is supposed to integrate into the process the ability to get guys emails that are interested in signing up for our program, and then we can give them emails and more value, more content, and more things to potentially, if they want to come into the program later. And this has been going on for months where the capturing system didn't capture thousands of emails of guys like yourself that we could have helped, okay? And that one little detail, and this has happened multiple times across our business, and if you're a business owner, you understand this, one little detail could cost so much. And so the inherent quality that I had developed over these past couple of years was having attention for detail, right? Looking at the little things do matter. So for yourself, when you've looked at the continuous improvement idea, where you looked at your traits of where your wife has complained about certain things, and you stopped looking at the symptom, but rather, what was the inherent personality trait in yourself that she's complaining about? The big one being integrity or lack of leadership, okay? That a lot of men lack over time. They don't make decisions, or they don't do what they say they'll do, which also erodes trust. You have to ask yourself, what can I do in my habits day by day to increase this internal skill myself? So if you look at, let's say, integrity, right? Let's say you have an accountability partner. right? So you set goals. This is what our group does with the guys. We set them up with a brother in arms. And every single week, if they say, hey, I'm gonna do this thing next week with my life, they follow up a week later and they hold each other accountable. This accountability coaching within our community allows guys to increase the amount of integrity that they have with each other. The third principle in the Kaizen method is the elimination of waste. Now, the way this applies to your current situation is that oftentimes what I see with a lot of couples and individuals is this resentment or poison that comes up. The poison is an outpouring from fear. And the unfortunate thing, it's almost laughable that if we couldn't laugh at it, we'd cry, right? But usually what happens is that men and women, when we go into a fear state, a fear of abandonment, oftentimes our system will try to protect ourselves. We will try to protect ourselves. But in protecting ourselves, whether you are the chaser or the avoider, what you're doing is you're inevitably pushing away what you ultimately actually want. Think of it as different parts of yourself. You see, you have this part that wants love, which is what I would say is more authentic to yourself. And then you have this other protector, which its main goal is to just push away and sabotage what you want most. Now, the way this came about for most men when their wife decided to leave them is that whenever she said, I'm no longer in love with you, whenever they found out about another man, whenever they got the divorce papers, that protector mode went up immediately. And for most of the guys, they are the anxious type, like my past self, right? And so for a lot of men, what will happen is that whenever she starts to really pull away and she's uncertain about the relationship, she's more in the realm of thinking that the relationship is not going to work out, but she's still uncertain. There's still hope there, and there still is for you. But instead of giving her the space, right, not chasing and turning on yourself and looking within, what you'll do is that you'll start to chase, you'll start to be logical, you start to, no, let's fix. And if she's in the avoider role, which a lot of wives are, she needs that space to calm down, to like regulate her emotions and allow her to think. And by you chasing, you're only justifying in her mind that she made the right decision. And so it's like you're shooting yourself in your own foot. I have a whole video on this channel that's dedicated to self-sabotage. And a lot of guys don't understand the importance of this concept until they come into the program. So I highly suggest you watch it, because I know for a fact every single person on 10 years of doing this has self-sabotaging defense mechanisms that are pushing away the one thing they want most. And learning how to identify that waste and work through it. It is a long process, but it is necessary, not just for your happiness in this relationship, or if you get into the next one, but also because your kids are taking on this waste as well. And so eliminating this waste is getting rid of generational karma, if you will, okay? Now this is what I specialize in doing with our coaches. So if you recognize that self-sabotaging behaviors are a part of your whole entire relationship with her, and you're sick and tired of them just wrecking the one thing that you love most, then set up a call to our team down below. All right, the fourth component of the Kaizen method is respect for people. Now, it applies that to respect for employees, but the kind of respect that I want to talk about here is respect for yourself, specifically in regards to your boundaries as a man, okay? Because what happens with a lot of men is that they either don't know their boundaries, they don't know what they stand for, or they do, and then they sacrifice parts of themselves, or they sacrifice those boundaries and disrespect themselves, and that's what allows your wife to disrespect you, because you're not upholding your boundaries. I remember a guy in our group program, his wife was seeing another man, and she was in the house with him, and on the group call, he's like, Josh, this is the situation, I don't know what to do. I said, well, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I don't know, and he was hemming and hawing, and I was like, hey, look, you're just gonna answer me this question, yes or no, don't think too much about it. Are you okay with your wife seeing this other man? Because he was playing off that he can maybe accept it if she stays in the house, right? I said, no. I said, okay. Is it important for you to assert your boundaries as a man, to respect yourself? Is that important to you? Of course, he said, yes. I said, okay, knowing the first two things, what should you do? He said, I need to have a conversation with my wife. And I said, why? He said, because it's important for me to respect myself more than anything else. I said, look, man, whether she chooses to end it with him or not, the thing is that you need to hold your respect for yourself, because even if she did come back to you, let's say they stayed in the house together, right? And she was seeing this other guy, but he didn't assert his boundaries. And he said it was okay that she can see this other guy emotionally. Like she was talking, it was an ex-boyfriend, by the way, that she would talk to on the phone, but it was just an emotional conversation, right? It was nothing physical. They're just catching up, right? And even one time his wife had him come in and they talked, right? Said, hey, look, you could talk to him. There's nothing's going on here. He knew it was, something was going on. He felt it, right? And I said, if she came back to you, because let's say they just somehow stopped talking to each other, she's like, okay, I'm done talking to him. She would know that it bothered you, and you would hold that resentment. You see, going back to the waste thing, right? But you have to recognize that you must respect yourself, okay? Which means holding up your boundaries, even if it means creating conflict and getting her upset, because she will never be with a man she cannot respect. All right, the next part of the Kaizen method is called Gimpa. Pretty sure I'm saying that right. And it essentially means going to the source. Now, in the factories, I'm sure it's like going to the source of an issue, finding where it's really at. But in your relationship, what that would look like is a lot of men, when they start working on themselves, they read a couple books, they will, go to a therapist. There is some good insight. I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, it's impossible to actually save your marriage going anywhere else except for me. No, that's not the case at all, right? I'm going to give you the truth. It took me 10 years to get to where I'm at, and I still feel like I have so much to learn, right? There's so much to learn about understanding the source of where our behaviors come from. And I find that a lot of guys, they kind of get it wrong, right? And they try to fix problems or things in themselves or just other areas where they think the issue is, but it's not the source of the issue. What do I mean by this? I'll just give you one example to prove the point, right? A lot of guys, what will happen when they're in a relationship with their wife is that, let's use infidelity as an example. A lot of guys deal with, there's another man in the picture. And even if there's not, if it's in a bad situation with your wife, she is definitely considering that, okay? I'm just speaking truth to you. A lot of times when the wife starts to pull away, I'll hear, oh, if it wasn't for her depression, our marriage wouldn't be in shambles. Or if it wasn't for me losing my job, if it wasn't for her therapist in her ear, or her sister, or her mother, or whatever the case may be, or, it's her past trauma, that's a huge one, right? And it's really easy to look outside of yourself for the issue because the idea here is that like, oh, if it's outside of me, I can't control it, right? It's not about me. Because it really hurts to admit to yourself that it's about you, that you have more control in this than you think. But the thing is like, even though you can get temporary relief thinking it's something outside of yourself, look, man, playing that victim role, it's not going to take you anywhere, right? It's not. And when you can, when you're having one finger pointing out, you're having three pointing back at yourself, right? That whole thing. And it's okay that there's things that you need to work on. Like no one's perfect. And I think giving yourself a little bit of self-acceptance and pausing and looking at, okay, what did I do in this situation? Even in a situation where a wife is seeing another man, it's really easy to say, she shouldn't have done that. And yes, I agree. You should end the relationship before you decide to open it up to someone else. 100% agree with that, okay? But you have to recognize that if she is seeing another man, for example, even if she has insecurities and fear of abandonment, she needs validation from other guys to feel loved and like all this stuff, at the end of the day, she left you for a certain reason, okay? And whether you choose to still work it out with this woman, I know you want to since you're listening to me, or things move on in the future, I don't want you to go through the same pain. And there are parts of you that she exposed, right, that need to be worked on, and that's okay. But let's start with understanding that there are things that you have to work on. So let's go to that source. And a really good way to do this is through an inquiry process. And it's just asking yourself just more questions, right? Why did this happen? What was my part in this? Is there something unique to me that's happened multiple times over, right? Same situations where it's a behavior part of me. Do I have any negative emotions over past conflict? If you have any negative emotions, that's a really big sign that there's something that you're dealing with there that you have to look at yourself, okay? All right. Okay, so the final tenets or principle of the Kaizen system or method in order to get her back is teamwork or collaboration. Now, the way I see this with a lot of guys is that when they are oftentimes talking to their wife, what I'll see is they create a me versus her mentality, right? A win-lose situation. And they're oftentimes, because you're in flight or flight mode yourself, you're fearing abandonment, what happens is that you're super self-focused, okay? If you are in your head with her, if you're thinking of the right words to say, if you're always like planning and using strategy and like just overthinking when you're talking to her, or you're like analyzing text messages nonstop, you are not in the collaborative frame. You are afraid that she's leaving you, so you're thinking, me, I need to fix this for myself. Now let's have that as an honest assessment of where you're at, okay? But if you can shift your focus consciously to say, in conversation with her, how is she feeling? How can I benefit us? And you think of the us frame, okay, instead of the me frame or the you frame, what that does is it allows you to step into this more collaborative space. I would even argue different neurotransmitters are released like serotonin and dopamine and DHEA, where you start to relax a lot more and you show up with an open heart and you're more present and you're in the moment. She feels that, okay? So the next time you're having a conversation with her and you notice yourself kind of getting into your head, getting a little nervous, pause for a second, take a deep breath and go, what can I do here to help her or to help us? What is in the best benefit of us? And just start to imagine yourself, like if you're combating her like this, imagine visually that you guys are just next to each other looking at the problem. It's you and her versus the problem, not you versus her, okay? And it's really hard to do that because naturally your brain is like, oh, but she's the problem, like she's fighting with me. And I think just try this the next time you're with her, having a conversation in conflict or any difficult conversation. If you can sit next to her, great. If not, just visualize in your head that you guys are together next to each other looking at the problem. Okay. Now I promise you at the very end, I would tell you this powerful exercise called the personal audit. So what we're going to do here is a piece of paper. You're going to do spirituality. You're going to say physicality or health, relationships, okay, financial, career, and emotional life. Like that's boundaries, values, how you feel day by day. You're gonna audit those 1 through 10, okay? Then you're gonna ask yourself, what specific habits can you stop doing and start doing to increase each domain of your life, okay? And also ask yourself, how are certain people in my life either adding to these areas of my life or detracting? I know it seems like a simple exercise, but doing this and putting it on paper will just give you like an objective look of like, oh crap, like there's this one habit I'm doing that's completely subtracting from what I want, okay? And that's a really good jumping off point in starting how to improve yourself long term, okay? Thanks for watching the video. Watch this video on the screen right here that you're seeing, and I'll see you in the next one.